In the last lecture, we created our Axios instance. Now it's time to be able to send requests there. Now let's figure out where we do this. Well, in our Burger Builder container, there we have this method where we handle the purchase continuation. Right now we're showing this you continue alert. Now, of course, we don't want to show you continue. In the final application, we probably want to navigate the user to some checkout form. We haven't learned how to load different pages in our single page app. And yes, pages in a single page app sounds strange. You'll see how that works soon. And we also haven't learned how to handle form input, how to validate this, and so on. So for now, there won't be a checkout form. We can simply take the order as it is and store it like this with some dummy data appended to it in the database. So to do that, let's comment out this alert line here. And instead in this place here, I want to send my data to my backend. I want to make this HTTP request. So in the Burger Builder file, we should import our own Axios instance. So I'm going to import Axios from, and now I need to go all the way up to the root folder, and there from the Axios orders.js file. This is going to use our configured Axios instance. Now we can use that in the purchase continue handler to send a request to our own backend. Now for storing data, we should use a post request, and therefore we use the post method on that instance. Now the URL is of course now our base URL plus whatever we're adding here. And that's the cool thing about Firebase. I said that it uses this MongoDB-like structure. We don't actually have tables here, we just have JSON-like nested structure. And if we send a request to something like this URL/orders, it's going to create our orders node and store our orders beneath that node. And this is exactly what I want to do. I'll add /orders here. And now for Firebase only, there is a special thing. You need to add .json here. This is the endpoint you just need to target for Firebase to function correctly. Of course, in your next project, you probably have your own backend or you use some other service and you need to choose the appropriate endpoint there. For Firebase, it's any node name of your choice, .json. So that's the URL I want to send a request to, the URL which gets appended to my base URL, or the path which gets appended to my base URL. Now we also need to send some data. And that data, of course, should be our order for the given burger configuration. Now the burger configuration is stored in the state here. We have the ingredients, we have the total price. So we got everything we need here. So that's super simple. We can create a new order object, a JavaScript object, which has ingredients. And here I simply want to use this state ingredients, and which should have a price, this state price, total price, excuse me. And just a little side note, of course, for your production ready application, you should definitely calculate that final price on the server because you probably have your products stored on the server there to make sure that the user isn't manipulating the code before sending it and manipulates the price which you're using. Still here, I'm going to use that price. Again, be aware that this, of course, is not a setup you would use on a real app. There you would recalculate the price on the server. Now let's say for our order, we also need some additional information, which we can't fetch right now because we don't have a checkout form, but which I still want to fill on the backend with some dummy data. So there we have some customer data maybe. So customer could be a JavaScript object where we have something like a name. So here this is Max Schwarzmuller, that's my name, choose your name of course. Then we might have an address where we have something like street, the test street, you might guess that I'm not living there, and like a zip code rolling over the keyboard, and maybe country, so for me that's Germany. And feel free to add any additional data here. We also might have an email address, so let's add test@test.com here. And let's maybe also add another field next to customer, delivery method, which should be fastest, so that we have like a choice between fastest possible delivery and cheapest or something like that. So just some dummy order data. Feel free to pick any data you want. We're later going to add a checkout page where we can actually fill this with some life by using a form. But for now, let's simply build our dummy order like this. This now is the order I want to store on the backend. So for the order here, I'm going to pass this as a second argument for the post request. So this is the data which gets sent to this path. And now let's add a then method to see our response. And I'm just going to log the response here for now. And let's also add a catch method where I also want to log the error for now. We're going to update both methods in a second. So let's see if this now works. We got our post request in place. We're sending a dummy order. We set up the Axios instance and we created the Firebase project. Let's head over to our burger application and let's build a burger here. Maybe this one. Let's click order now. And now upon continue, the request should be sent. So let's click continue. And that's looking good. I'm getting back a response with status 200. So let's check out Firebase. It should update this page automatically. And you should see the orders node in which you now see this cryptic name here. Now, since we use the post method, Firebase is automatically creating and managing a list here. And each list item simply gets a unique ID assigned and created by Firebase automatically. If we expand this object, we see the order data we actually passed with the address, the customer data, the delivery method, and the ingredients of the burger. And the ingredients look good to me: meat, salad, bacon. That looks a lot like the burger we actually built here. So that's pretty great. We got our burger saved on the back, we got our order saved here. And the cool thing is, of course, that this data is staying here. If we reload the app, we reload this HTML file and therefore, of course, lose the application state because the JavaScript state is gone. But of course, our state on the server is still there. So now we could fetch the orders and output them to the user. And in a real application, we would also, as a producer or as the business owner, we would also probably handle the orders now and send that burger to the customer. So that's a post request. Before we go on to error handling and that stuff, let's make sure that we also present something to the user whilst the request is on its way. And then let's make sure that we also get some data from the backend.